Just give me one feedback, anyone, that this section B1 start with Sommodip De Mudok, is it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is the roll sheet I need to preserve. Okay, fine. So let me start with it's around 10 minutes. I mean, today I will not take any formal class. I may not allow the students at least maximum up to 5 to 6 minutes, because we have to start the class, and if we go for the presentation mode, or rather the online board working, then it's difficult to admit someone, because then I have to stop the class and go back to the admitting process. It's difficult. I will not admit persons once I start the class. That is difficult. And second issue is basically today I will not take any formal class at all. Today it's basically we are getting introduced to each other, how the class will be conducted, some textbook I can refer, and then finally you have to, if you have your queries, I can answer. And I have already discussed with your seer that let me see whether the Jadavpur system is having some problem, whether they're allow recording. So everything is at a mess now. Anyway, let's hope that something will happen. Yeah, I'm not sure whether the recording will be at all done because Jadavpur University, the license version has expired, and I got the message in that there are some negotiations with Google to get some 2 months extension, but it's not yet sure whether we can get it anyway. So let's maybe it may not be possible. Let's see. Let's carry on. So what this class will be, you know that due to the staggering of the first year students entry, technical problem removed. Following person removed, Krishna Bera. They can try to rejoin the meeting. Anyway, start anyway. Yeah, need not to send any good morning, sir. These are wastage of messages. Don't do it. So I don't need to receive it. It's a courtesy, I know, but it's rather unnecessarily attracts my attention to that message, to those messages. I hope that all of you are wishing good morning to me.
Please remove it from the.
Sir, please remove the person who have written the message.
Sir, he is not from our class.
Oh my God. So I don't know how to remove also. But if he stays in the class, I don't have any problem. Who is he? I don't know.
Sir, he may play sound and disturb the class. He may play songs.
And if this is the situation, then how can I manage? Impossible.
Yes, sir. You can send the invitation to all the students who have the mail IDs.
Sir, I may suggest one thing to you, sir. I will send you the class email ID list. You can send
No. What I did, I cannot just go on entry making some 80 students or 50 students entry.
No, sir, you can put it in the CC thing and you can select all and put it in the CC thing.
Let me just finish.
Then no need to manual entry and admit this.
Why people are just, let me finish. My suggestion is, if you can make a group mail, Gmail of the what the other classes also did sometime. If you can make a students group of your B section together, the seer and others can take the initiative for that, and then I will enter only the group mail, and acceptance will be given by only the seer. Then obviously automatically everybody will get. So how to create a group mail in Google? You have to find it out and do it yourself. Okay. So send it. So the problem is solved. Let your seer send it to me, and then I will just next time I will just type that group email so that everybody gets automatically. Anyway, so these problems are there, and how to remove someone I don't know actually. But is it some sort of spam or deliberate creating problem? The people have so much time for doing these things, and it's really unfortunate that people have got. Let me check. I mean, I have to learn these things also because these are not our primary issues. We are supposed to teach, but so many unfortunate situations.
Yes, sir. You can, if you hover the mouse on the contact icon of the student, and then type the 3 dots, and you will see a blocking option. I mean, what logo? A circle and a minus sign in between of that, in the middle of the circle. Remove option.
But interestingly, I cannot find that person in the list. If he is doing it deliberately and if he is listening to our conversation, then maybe so many things are coming up of hiding anybody, etc., etc. Anyway, so what can I do? Anyway, let's continue. Let's see how much damage he can do. Maybe he can send entry into the system and create some problem. And this is the first class not I'm going to start. So we can, next day, the communications will be made through only the Gmail and group mail, rather better to say. So if the seer can send me the group mail, I can just put into the group mail so that the restriction will be also, I mean, will be within those
Okay,
two.
sir. I will send you after the class.
Yeah, but I myself is also confused how this person get the link also, because it has been shared by somebody. Otherwise, how can we get the link? Because
Sir, I have sent the link in the official group so that everybody can see and join as instructed by you. Sir,
Mm,
someone from the class might have sent it to them personally or they have got the link to any of the mails.
no, I don't have any problem if somebody comes into the class with academic interest, because I will go on discussing something. If somebody outside the class is interested with this subject topic, I should not, stop somebody. But if only
Yes,
object,
sir, but this type of name means he doesn't exist also, and this type of person come in the class and play music and disturb the teacher deliberately every time.
okay, let's not waste any more time. I mean, after this particular guy, he may be a good one, maybe a bad one. Let's see how much damage he can do. So, R. Arabdho Bhattacharya, is he outside of your class? Arabdho Bhattacharya? At least the name shows like that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He's
Okay.
from.
Anyway, so I cannot rather find him in the list of the students also, unfortunately. Anyway, so let's do one thing. Search for people. Just 1 minute. Most probably he has hided himself too. That's the interesting part.
Yeah, he maybe left the meeting.
He maybe left the meeting also. Anyway, okay. So let's go on discussing rather than wasting any more time. So what we will do actually in this class, as you know, I have discussed with your CR also. The first year, you were first year last year. You had an later delayed entry due to some pandemic situations. Everything is getting disrupted, and this year also the delayed entry is there. And so what happened? The last year second semester is still continuing for the first year, and your second semester has already, rather the last year first semester most probably. Sometimes I get confused. Anyway, this is the second semester most probably. So your second semester has started, though delayed with third year, with respect to third year, fourth year. So the class routine I have been given by the university is I have a overlap of classes. That means this class, and simultaneously I have one pending class from the previous year, and that I have to take today also. That's the electronics engineering first year class. So on the same date, same time, rather the electronics engineering class officially starts at 10, and then it goes up to 2 p.m. and your class goes up to 10 to 11. So in these two routines, there is overlap of the classes. It's when the physical classes will start, I have to somehow manage it. And what I have discussed with your class here, that we have to shift this class to some other days. And he has already committed, most probably on Monday, na? Monday, 2:30 to 4:30 sort of. Is it, Nilay? I guess so.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So Monday 4:30 to 2:30 will be the 2 period shifted. So please accept it. Otherwise, we'll be in trouble when the physical classes will start. And second issue, and Nila, please get it confirmed that your classrooms are also available. Hopefully, it should be, because if you don't have any class, you can find out the suitable classroom, discussing with your head of the department. I mean, which classroom is available, then you can fix up. At least the students has to be accommodated. And second issue is now the online classes, none of us know how many days the online classes will be there, and then when we will be able to go for the physical classes. But I believe that the theoretical classes are not much suffering. I'm telling not much suffering, undoubtedly suffering. Directly eye to eye contact during teaching is very much important between student-teacher relationship, and there a lot of people can get rather the more excited with the board work I do and everything. But here there is little limited scope, and obviously being in different atmosphere rather than the classroom, the people's psychological motivation gets diluted. So it happens that undoubtedly online class cannot be a full substitute of a physical class, but online class, theory classes, rather affects lesser than the practical and sessional classes, because practical and sessional classes become almost useless, some sort of substitution, if not fully, because the practical and sessional classes are supposed to do, the students learn of their own doing something. That's the significance of the applied science courses, because unless you do it yourself within your hands, then you don't get the feeling of that particular job or doing, how the people will feel of doing those things giving that experience is the important issue. So, I mean, just discussing these two issues, that means first is we have to shift the class, and the second class also, as Nilay has committed, maybe he can discuss with all of you. Its class starts at 10 to 11. Okay, it's okay for me, but I stay at Salt Lake, and going to Jadavpur, it takes invariably some longer time period. And what happens actually in between, if I get delayed, then in 1 hour class, if I am delayed by 15 minutes, 20 minutes, then it becomes difficult to manage. If it is a 2 hour class, then it's okay. I mean, other lesser percentage of time. So if the both classes can be shifted, it's a better option for me. So you try, if you can do, if you cannot, then obviously I have to manage somehow. And so these two class shifting is basically your group discussions. I initiate this process so that it is my instruction. That's why at least it's not the CS decision, it's the teacher's decision. That's why I'm just requesting you to, if you can accommodate, it's better. If you cannot, then obviously we have to accommodate accordingly. This is the two issues I wanted to discuss. And then in thermodynamics as a subject, it's interesting to repeat thermodynamics as a common subject for most of the department in engineering, and many of the institutes, almost all has, not almost, every engineering department has to go through the thermodynamics course, like engineering mechanics and engineering drawing courses. In Jadavpur, unfortunately, due to the last curriculum revision, there was some controversy, including some other subjects in thermodynamics, and then only electronics, computer science has dropped, but all other departments are taking thermodynamics as far as I know in their first year course curriculum. So, and interestingly, thermodynamics during teaching, it's a mixed experience, because many of the things I will discuss will overlap with your previous knowledge, because thermodynamics you have already gone through both in physics course and in chemistry course. And out of these two courses, chemistry course, thermodynamics is subject. Facts or truth cannot be different if it is followed by a different group of people. The facts, natural facts, the science come from natural facts, and those natural facts cannot change depending on the group of people who are pursuing it. But certain conventions and definitions imposed on those certain parameters, etc., is made according to the convenience. For example, when I was just trying to help my son, I mean, in his thermodynamics course in chemistry, I was really shocked to see that the sign convention of work and heat, they're just opposite than the physics and engineering. The physics, the engineering people follow the same sign conventions of the physics people. That means work output from the system is considered to be positive, and what going into the system is negative. But in chemistry, most of it is taken as the reverse. At least the books write that, and later they confirmed, yes, that's the convention of the chemistry, just opposite to that of physics. So subject basics doesn't change, but subject, some of the conventions or definitions may be added up according to requirement, because the physics and chemistry people, they have to study the subject from the viewpoint of mostly learning the interactions of the within the matter and how the overall interactions of those matters get manifested as a bulk system. So their rather attention is more focused at the molecular level. And in fact, based on that, the subject approach of the physics people and the engineering people a little bit different, because engineering people, they always have to deal with, most cases, I'm not telling in all, because now engineering and science has become more overlapped in advanced research. The microfluidics is also an engineering subject now, where the molecular level attention has to be done. And statistical thermodynamics is a concept where the entire explanations of the thermodynamic manifestations will be explained from the activities or the interactions or the assumptions at the molecular level, because all of us know that everything happens at the molecular level, and then the overall manifestation comes up. So the science people are more interested with those, whatever activity, I mean, when they read the subject thermodynamics, whatever activities are happening at the molecular level. But engineers are mostly interested as a bulk approach. That means they're not concerned with much with the so-called molecular level activities, but they are more interested with concentrated overall system approach. And those overall system approach, if can be managed, is comparatively easy to, rather can be accepted, not managed, can be accepted, is a much simpler approach. Because from the common sense also you can understand that if you want to take molecule by molecule actions and then adding up some method, mathematical technique or something like that, then it becomes very much complicated approach with respect to, if you can consider the system as a whole, as a continuous mass. But this bulk approach. In fact, this will be the one of the class discussion, maybe 1 hour class discussion, how these two approaches different and what are the positive, I mean the relative advantage, disadvantage, etc. regarding these two approaches. So, but what I come back to the again the main root of discussion, or where I was just flowing. There, I mean to say that in engineering thermodynamics, this course is engineering thermodynamics, and your name is basically given thermodynamics and heat power, because as a civil engineering students, you are supposed to get the flavor of the subject from your departmental requirement. And interestingly, the thermodynamics has become, as I told you, that compulsory for almost all the departments in Jadavpur too, and in most of the good institutes, including IITs. I know it's a compulsory subject for all the engineering disciplines like engineering, drawing, engineering, mechanics, etc. Anyway, so coming back to the subject per view, you know that the thermodynamics is on the basis of the observation of the nature. You just look in the nature, whatever you find out is naturally happening. Nobody knows. Somebody may define it is done by God. Somebody may define it, no, it's by natural, I mean, the system consisting of the earth and the other associations of the so-called solar system, etc. Obviously, scientific explanations are there, but some natural facts happen which are not as a out of scientific outcome. For example, that the heat flows from high temperature to low temperature. The question is, there is no reason in that. I mean, we can assign rather. It could have been the law that the heat flows from low temperature to high temperature. I mean, if you would have rather naturally, if we would have observed that that happens, then we have to assume. Rather, I can put it in the other way. We have defined the temperature. Temperature is a sense of feeling, and you know that the hot temperature, I mean the hotter temperature, better to say, gives some sensation on our skin. But the colder temperature is also some sensation on our skin. For example, I had one of my friends when I was studying in IIT. Actually, came from deputation on Siachen Glacier. He was an Indian Army captain, and rather naturally, you can understand how much temperature, I mean, how low temperature is there. And there was a standard practice for the army people that they can never handle the weapons without gloves there. The reason is very clear. In the weapons, there are some metal parts, and if you touch those metal parts with your skin at that very low temperature, you will have no burning sensation. But suddenly you will find out that some skin is getting spilled off, I mean, peeled off rather from your body. So it's some sort of, this is called the cold burning. That means what you want to mention here, the hot burning sensation all of us have, because that high temperature we have in our domestic applications of during cooking, etc. So that hot burning sensation, what it happens on the skin, there is some blisters after if we get the hot burning exposed, etc. We know all these things. But cold burning sensations, we don't have much because, I mean, we are not exposed to that low temperature. And during our student days, we had a very interesting experience of, we had a cryogenic department, cryogenic engineering department. There the liquid gases was also available in the cylinders. And if you have the rather some experience of looking at those liquid gases, I mean, if you are put into some pot, they just simply boils like anything and gets evaporated very shortly. That's expected, because it's not expected that they will just survive at the normal temperature. But if you can put some small leaf, or rather some living parts, automatically you will find out that it has become a dried, some sort of brittle. I mean, we would be very interesting, rather we enjoy that, putting a simple leaf, I mean, leaf from the tree in that, I mean, very fresh leaf. And then it becomes a brittle sort of thing instantly. So that's the sensation of cold burning, as I want to mention. And I'm correlating with that, that if we mention that, I mean, that then the temperature scale, interestingly, in centigrade, as you know, that feeling of what is higher temperature, it's a feeling. And what is colder temperature, both has got adverse effect on our skin. And then if we define that higher temperature, I mean, that hot feeling, what we have currently, defined as higher temperature. That's why it is that heat is flowing from high to low temperature. But interestingly, I mean, if we just put it, the centigrade scale was originally proposed as higher temperature, so-called currently accepted was lower temperature definition, and lower temperature was defined as the higher temperature. So obviously we had to change it later, rather it was changed later with a better proposition. So the temperature definitions, whether it will be called a +10 or -10, that's under the definition, obviously with a standard logic using scientific principles. But the anything if you just in the gravitational under gravitational effect, if you put it from top, it comes towards the bottom. So that means it moves from higher to lower temperature. So higher to lower altitude. So how all these things happens following the natural law? Thermodynamics has taken up those observations of natural processes, and then laws are formulated. And interestingly, those laws are taught at high secondary level, and we will revisit those laws. And some of the laws, I'm not sure, but it's expected that you will have newer interpretation when you come to the engineering courses, because you may have studied second law up to certain level. And I must say that I personally hate the high secondary syllabus. I've seen the CBSE syllabus, maybe the ICSE or others board are also same or similar. I mean, there is no need of teaching so many areas and so many things in a particular subject. I mean, by a course of 2 years, it's unnecessarily pressurizing students, because if you have to know everything at the undergraduate level at high secondary period, then the course curriculum structure is made only to eliminate the students in the competitive exam, and no student can get equally interested of learning. I mean, honors level chemistry, physics, and mathematics up to almost closer to the MSc level. It's useless, because after the high secondary, the students will go into a particular discipline. And so whether they will go for engineering discipline, or depending on medical discipline, or some general science discipline, or some can go into the interdisciplinary approach, whatever may be. But depending on that, the no engineering course will depend how much you have learned thermodynamics in your physics course or chemistry course. We have to teach the thermodynamics again, like mathematics again. There are some prerequisites, but still we have to teach it, because we have to accommodate these subjects to our future applications, or rather the orientations of the subject course. So based on these, actually, this is, I believe personally, is completely useless of teaching so many things rather than not concentrating to make it interesting, of making the syllabus lower. But nobody will listen to our words, I know, not my words, not your words. And undoubtedly, those 2 years, most of the students feel rather not enjoying the subject, but under compulsion they study. But after that, obviously, you have your rather enjoying the subject, scope of enjoying the subjects, because I believe in undergraduate disciplines, whatever may be the discipline, the subjects are more rationalized, because there is no such competition of putting into qualifying the students. I mean, with cutthroat competition, that several lakhs will appear and only some rather very few thousands, 1,000, 2,000 seats are available. And then also with respect to a lot of constraints and rules and other things, and favorable reservations, etc., etc. So obviously, this is a very important area. You have rather the years, 2 years you have crossed, and now you have come into the undergraduate courses, and according to your competition, you have just reached up to the civil engineering department of Jadavpur University, and I believe that all of you are good. So what I will try to do in this particular course, I mean thermodynamics course, I will start from basics, and those basics I have to, because I'm not sure out of those 2 years very under pressurized course, how much you could just, all of you might not have studied the thermodynamics to the same level of importance. You have maybe have decided to choose other subjects or other part of the subject with higher priority, for getting better priority in the both in board exams and the competitive exams. So I cannot depend on how much you have learned in high secondary. So for some people, it may be redundant initially, some classes, and after that, obviously, the new things will come up, no doubt about it. And but bear with me. In the class, you may feel rather a little bit redundant, but you have to in the class, because the class has to be according to the need of everybody, not with respect to a specific student. And some people, I'm sure, will find it interesting, because, or rather new, not interesting, but new, because they might not have studied those things during high secondary period with that much seriousness. So initially, some of the classes will be repetition, no doubt, but those who wants to attend the class, they can. Those who do not, they can leave, no issue for me. But keeping the track of the class, my advice is to go through those classes and see if you know it, just get it reinforced, or rather reiterated, or rather reminded again. But if you don't know those things, there is a scope of refreshing those knowledge which was supposed to be given in high secondary. Anyway, so that's the very candid statement I want to make. But after, I don't know how many classes, some few classes, obviously something new will come up in this course, which was not taught in high secondary. That's why it is, because if it is a complete repetition of your high secondary courses, then there is no meaning of keeping this course. And in fact, this course is heavy. I mean, whatever is the content of this course, regarding that also I have a comment, because these subjects are called, they're taught by the teachers of different department, not of the same department you belong to. But here I have a very clear suggestions from my experience, because I have almost 35 years of experience of teaching, and there from there I have just found out that previously we thought that the subjects which are not taught by the departmental subject teacher or were not included in the departmental subject may be less important. We call it non-departmental subject, and that's your choice. You can do it, same thing right now. I don't have any problem. But the difficulty is, if your education ends up in undergraduate, then also if you go for the industry, then you know that the nature never created any discipline. What nature created is all are interdisciplinary. We have created these disciplines just because to keep those course content within certain time period to be finished within 4 years course period. So when you approach for the real life, activities, whether it's industry or it higher studies, research, etc., you will find out that every natural things are interdisciplinary in nature. So what you have to do, we have to go for the so-called interdisciplinary approach. Achha. So here, from that viewpoint, actually, unless you have the peripherals of some fundamental subjects like thermodynamics, etc., and say currently we are considering that minimum knowledge of the data science, electronics. These are the. It's not that somebody studying mechanical engineering may be completely ignorant about the basics of electronics, because now any instrumentation, any experimental activities, if you want to do, it can never go without any electronics, and it has to be. And similarly, the civil engineering and mechanical engineering has got some common areas of activities as a basic core area. One of the important area is fluid mechanics, because whenever you are going to make a design of a bridge, which is obviously under the purview of the civil engineers completely, then obviously the water will flow on the river, and you have to make your design your base or pillars of the bridge, if it is at all there, accordingly, so that the fluid will flow over the pillars. Similarly, if a mechanical engineer wants to make a wind turbine, that's the purview not of under the civil engineers, but in the mechanical engineers. They have to know when air flows around a particular body, how the forces are generated, and we can make it rotate. But again, the base of the wind turbine is the responsibility, or rather the responsibility of the civil engineers. And when it goes to the nuclear power, then the physics people, mechanical engineering people, chemical engineering people, and civil engineering people has to be there, because there will be many concrete layers for safety purpose, not from the structural objective, but concrete layers are good for, resisting the radiation from the radioactive elements. And to consider that, actually, those are under the purview of the civil engineers. So in real life, when you enter either as a professional or in higher studies, going into PhD, in my PhD group, actually, currently I work in the field of energy mostly. There, electronics, electrical, chemical, mechanical, even some socio-economic, economics, and etc. people are also working, because whenever you go for studying engineering applications, then we cannot just remove the issues of socio-economic interaction or socio-economic impact studies. One of the good example worldwide people give that the nano car, it was never due to the failure of technological issues, but society didn't accept that car. So the propositions of floating the nano car at a lower price, as if attracting the middle class and the lower middle class people of having the pride of owning a car, was not successful due to the social issues. There is no issues of any failure due to the technological issues of nanos. It's a very good, technologically successful for at least lower kilometer travels, and with a good mileage. But still it was not accepted. You see, so always technological success doesn't depend on the technological quality. It depends partially on the socio-economic acceptance also. So any introductions of new system into the society is so much interdisciplinary that engineers cannot deny the socio-economic aspects and minimum sense of socio-economic impacts and what is going to happen, a new system to impact for the society. And so that is becoming very much important, because another example I can give you, it's a very important example rather with respect to nuclear power. In fact, all of you know that whenever there is currently we're trying to switch over from the high carbon based system to the low carbon based system, means the carbon dioxide emission into the atmosphere causes the problem of global warming and climate change. All of you are aware, because young school children also know that. But Most of our power generation still depending on the fossil fuels, coal, mostly coal, and then partially gas, oil also. So these are, whenever you use this in the combustion route, then you are always emitting some carbon dioxide. And you have to switch over to the low carbon systems, mostly renewables. Mostly, why mostly? Completely renewables, you have the only option, because the climate change problem has imposed constraint. But in addition to that, on top of that, there is another main important issue is coming up, which is the depletion of the fuel. That means these are limited reserves. So obviously, if you depend on fossil fuels indefinitely, someday there will be then complete exhaust, rather it will be all exhausted. And out of these three important fossil fuels, oil is going to exhaust it in within less than 50 years. So when you have to, and currently the transport sector is depending fully on oil. So you have to find out the alternative transport sector, because you cannot stop moving when the oil is completely exhausted on this earth. And coal may be a little bit better support, because around 200 years we can still, if the consumption rate goes on this way, so we call it reserve by production ratio, determines how many years you can have. If your production ratio increases with the demand, and then obviously this data will also change. Instead of 200 years, it may be 100 years. But what I want to convey this message is, this limited fossil fuel reserves is also forced to change the overall energy systems, and moving from low carbon to high carbon, not only due to the climate change, high carbon to low carbon, not only due to the climate change problem, but also due to the limited reserves of the fossil fuels. So for that transformation, some people, and someday, even some 10 years, 15 years back around, the people thought that nuclear energy could have been a very good substitution between bridging this gap, because nuclear energy has got tremendous potential of generating several megawatts and thousands of megawatts all over the world, just using very small amount of nuclear fuel. And you know that the nuclear fuel principles are completely different with respect to mass conversion to energy, and substantial energy is released out of that. And honestly speaking, the entire world was convinced that nuclear energy will play a big role during this transition. But unfortunately, nuclear was not accepted due to the technological limitation, but it was not accepted due to the social perception. Entire Europe, when I was in Sweden, actually, that time 50-50 was the nuclear combinations and the hydro combination. And I know that the teachers teaching there, because they always depend on the industrial consultancy and real life needs, they were very much concerned, or rather aware of the nuclear power plants and their technology. But they have started reading, my host also, on the gas turbine plants, because their government has decided to shut down those nuclear power plants. And there is nothing limitations with respect to technology, but some of the unfortunate accidents in different places, Fukushima might be knowing, all of you from general knowledge, was one of the example where the people had a perception that this may create in future a lot of problems. And so this perception doesn't have that much supported by the technology, because the people who work in nuclear power plant, they give their example, are you suffering, all are from cancer. This sort of example actually a lot of people are giving, just because to convince the people and make a propaganda. In fact, a few days back I had a popular presentations on Energy Conservation Day, most probably 14th June sort of thing. And that time another speaker was from BARC, and he was the chief publicity officer sort of thing, his designation, though he's an engineer. He was the other speaker in that program, and he was also trying to promote the same idea, how safe nuclear power plants are. But anyway, people didn't accept. So the social perception makes also sometimes very important, in addition to the technological interventions or other technological developments. And that's why what I'm just coming to the conclusion from where I started. Thermodynamics for some courses come as a peripheral subject. Even an electronic student, when they wants to make some analysis of the entire system design, say their VLSI system, very large system integration, then the heat liberations from those different components and making proper heat transfer channels. If they cannot design it, then the entire design of the VLSI system will collapse, because large amount of heat emissions will be there during the power circuit, or rather the electronic circuit, as it starts operating. So the proper cooling of the electronic circuit is an important issue, where the mechanical engineers, in many examples, in many cases rather, they work together with the electronics engineers. And whatever is the example of all these things of interdisciplinary approach, but for the civil engineers, the thermodynamics and fluid mechanics, these are more important subject, because they have to come across these particular subjects in even their system design approach. So this Okay, so let's come to that particular discussions of, I mean, the need of this particular subject with respect to the civil engineering. We have confirmed it, and then we are just going into the subject rather from the next day. That means next class rather. When your CR informs me that this will be the next day's class. Now, coming into the subject perspective, as I mentioned that initially, I will just go through those definitions which you might have started. I mean, I've already studied in physics course, but still I have to repeat, and then I have to go to the advanced topics. With this, rather than going into the subject today, because I have another class, as I have mentioned, I have an overlap of classes, and that I have fixed up from 11. Rather, I can now wait for some of the responses from you people if you have some queries and other things. And then I will just make certain rules regarding the how I will conduct the classes, both in online and offline. So if you have any queries, now this is your scope.
Yeah, what are the new things we're gonna learn in rather than the class 11, 12 approach?
Oh yeah. That actually that is very difficult to explain in full total unless you learn the subject. Uh, when there will be the second law will be started. As far as I've seen, the higher secondary syllabus of second law is a little bit sketchy, though they're trying to introduce the both statements and the entropy connections, but those are not very convincing. But here you will find out that the understanding of entropy is very much required in the, I mean, at least in physical systems. How do you introduce the concept of entropy? Because entropy concept is introduced by the science people and engineering people in different approach. So that's why, though they are leading to the same meaning, but needs the different approach in science and engineering too. And from that viewpoint, from second law aspect, mostly the differences will be there. And in first law also, you will find out that the some major difference you may find out in the open system. That means where the mass flow will also happen from the system. Though the definition in open system was there in higher secondary, but I found out that they have not given much importance on that, just because the science systems are not much required for the open system. They are most interested with the closed systems where the mass remains constant. So, and then after that, whatever I will discuss is mostly the applications. That means how this thermodynamics principles will go into the applications, and you will find out how it is applied to power plant, internal combustion engines. These are obviously no science people will never be taught in the world. And these are the new things. So in short, partially first law, I mean, starting from the flow system, and then second law, substantially different from whatever you have learned. And then finally, when the applications stage, when the working fluid properties and the steam power plant, IC engines will be a little bit discussed in this course at the later part. For maybe some, I mean, some 1/3 or 1/4 of the course, where the applications areas will also be covered as an engineering course. But everything I cannot explain in this class, because unless you go through these topics, you don't understand the difference also. Anything else? Okay. If not, then I'm going into the general rules of this class. One rule is, do you have any query? No.
Sir, any books
Yeah,
recommend?
books is very important. Just note down. I don't have that book sample with me right at this moment, but the author name is good enough. All these books will be basically engineering thermodynamics. Okay. And maybe in different ways, that principles of engineering thermodynamics, basics of engineering thermodynamics, or engineering thermodynamics, a fundamental course like those. But engineering thermodynamics name will be there, because engineering and thermodynamics, these two names are important. Because thermodynamics, very special classical book for the science people is the Srivastava one book is there on thermodynamics. That is an excellent book I have gone through, and Jimansky is another book for the science people mostly. But as I am telling that I had to study those things for my PG teaching in mechanical engineering department, where those principles are required for statistical thermodynamics part. And what is statistical thermodynamics and what is classical thermodynamics, I'll explain during the course content. One is the engineering approach, more useful, another is the science people approach, more useful. I will discuss at the very beginning of the class. And my suggestion for the book, which is very important question, I forgot it. One author's name is Van Wylen, Vanwylen, Vanwylen, Van, and then W capital, Wylen, Wylen. And then the Sontag, Sontag. You can search this book. I mean, this is the, then maybe one more author has added up. What happens actually when an author writes a book, then in his lifespan, it goes under his name only. But then obviously, if you have to maintain those content created with some newer revisions, then the people has to be added up in future. So Van Wylen Sontag was the original authors, and maybe one Saragama Muttu or something like that is the third one. Maybe he is an Indian origin, I mean, studying abroad, rather become faculty in abroad, who is carrying out that name of that classical book written by those two authors. I don't know at what price it is available, but a very good book, most of the Indian universities follow, is the book written by Professor P.K. Nag. Then the author is P for petroleum, K for Kalingo, and then Nag. So Nag's Thermodynamics is widely followed in India, all over the India. It's a basic course and it is included in the AICTE list of books. Both books are listed. So whether I should name P.K. Nag as the first priority or Van Wylen and Sontag as the first priority, I'm not sure, because there are some more good thermodynamics. Thermodynamics is a classical subject. So there are several other books. So based on that, actually, it's very difficult to, rather not difficult. Actually, I got distracted due to some message has already started. Don't put any message, right? Unless if you want to speak up, please raise your hand, and rather not raising your hand, just to start with speaking up. It's a better option, because I cannot follow these messages simultaneously. It's not a commercial show off by me. Anyway, so then the Van Wylen Sontag can be one option, and the Engineering Thermodynamics by P.K. Nag can be the second option. And apart from that, there are some many other books. I can go on mentioning some 4 or 5 books, but I don't think it's required, because these 2 books, out of these, any one textbook is good enough for your syllabus. But P.K. Nag's book has got some advantage, because the Van Wylen might have also, I'm not sure. The application part is also included in the P.K. Nag's book, because to some extent we will discuss. But in application course, some of the things are included in your course, I mean, which we feel the teachers in both the sections is difficult to cover up in this particular time period and the course content, because it needs some more things to teach before we go to that level. So sometimes we make it in a sketchy representations of those application devices, or sometimes we cover up a little bit. Anyway, so that will be decided at the end of the semester. Any other queries? So the book is clear, either P.K. Nag's book or Van Wylen Sontag's book. Out of these 2, you can choose, or if you wish, you can buy both, one as text, another as the reference. If not, then I can go on.
Sir, I have one thing to tell you, that I have sent you the student list. Okay, sir?
No, I have got the printed the roll sheet, so I can make
okay, sir. Okay, sir. Then it's okay, sir. I thought you might require it for the attendance call and all.
Good. So, you have done very good. But fortunately, I have just today logged into our teachers Zoom's portal and found out that this is basically the first year last session I have taken, because the second year list is not yet prepared. But I hope most of the students, as rather almost all, have passed in the first year, unless they have dropped.
Sir, many new students have joined through the lateral entry thing. So, sir,
what I have to do?
I have the updated list, so you can do. It's in the Excel format, so you can go through it, and you may you can find out the new name.
Then do one thing. You send that in. Let me make a roll call today, and if lateral students' entries are there, I will just simply add up those names in this sheet. Then that work is done. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
So, Shomodip De Modok, are you present?
Present, sir.
Okay, fine. And then Ankit Prasad. Ankit Prasad, not present. Does he belong to your class, or I should strike it out?
No, sir. He belongs to our class.
He belongs to the class. Okay. Then Probal Shen.
Present, sir.
Okay, fine. Then Pranay Sharkar.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Then Dora Vinith.
Present, sir.
Okay. Then Shivam Mandal.
Sir, he don't study in the class anymore.
Oh, so I can strike it out throughout. Okay, Fine, that's
Yes,
good.
sir.
And then Shostik Acharya.
Present, sir.
Shostik is present. Okay, fine. Then Seushi De.
Present, sir.
Seushi is present. Okay, fine, good. And then Aman Kumar Singh. Aman Kumar Singh, does he belong to the class? Yes. Okay, good. Then I can strike it out completely, because in every year I find out in civil these things happens. Some of the students are not existing, but they are existing in the role sheet. Then Shantanu Burman.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Then Sreyash Tripathi.
Present, sir.
Okay. Then Shuchandrima Das. Shuchandrima. Does he belong to the class, or she is there but not attending today? She belongs to the class but not attending. Okay, absent today. Good. Then who? Shubham. Shubham Mondal. Shubham Mondal, but somebody told that he doesn't belong to the class. Anyway, let it be. Anyway, okay. I can manage it. So confusions will be there. Let them be consistently absent someday. Then only I will know. Then Oiship Bishash.
Present, sir.
Okay, fine. And then Debmallo Chatterjee. Debmallo. Maybe I can put it absent, not existing. I will decide later. Then Ritam Shah.
Present, sir.
Okay. Ranajit Dash.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then Bishak Krishna Bor.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Krishna Bor. Then fine. Good. Then Bishal Mandal. Maybe I put it absent. Then Anurag Chakraborty. So I say please switch it out, huh? Cut it out. Huh? Fine. Then Deep Haldar.
Present, sir.
Okay, good. Then Shuman Acharya, I put it absent. Then Shovik Pramanik. Okay. Then Ramij Ahmed Sardar.
Present, sir.
Okay, fine, good. Then I'm coming to the B2 section. Mohammad Wasim.
Present, sir.
Okay, Niloy Ghosh. Absent. Then Tarokeshwar Prasad Jaiswal.
Niloy was present.
Niloy Ghosh present. Oh, sorry. তুমি তো ক্লাসে সিয়ার ভুলে গেছিলাম। তারকেশ্বর প্রসাদ জয়সওয়াল absent. Then Orijit Roy.
Present, sir.
Okay, Orijit present. Then কি সানান্ন দত্ত। সানান্ন absent. Then Munshi Nazir Hussain.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then Arnab Bhattacharjee.
Present, sir.
Okay. And then coming to the Drishana Junjunwala.
Sir, she left the college.
She left the college.
Sir,
Okay.
and Shanonna Datta also says she have taken a drop and gone to first year, so she will not be part of our session.
Okay, fine. So I put it still, but maybe okay, I can cut it out. Yeah. And then Debanoka Gayan.
Present, sir.
Okay, fine. And then Shantapal.
Yes, sir. Present.
Then Ovigyan Jana.
Present, sir.
Okay, noted. Then Harshit Keswari.
Present, sir.
Keswari.
Present, sir.
Okay, present. Fine. Then Ovi Vishwas.
Present, sir.
Okay. And then Shayon Ojha.
Present, sir.
Shanskar Agarwal.
Present, sir.
Shanskar Agarwal, absent.
Present, sir. Present.
Oh, you are present. Okay, fine. Present. Kranti Mondal.
Present, sir.
Kranti. No.
Present, sir.
Then Shoham Rishi.
Present, sir.
Kranti Mondal. But respond by firstly, quickly. I cannot wait for you.
Present,
Shoham
sir.
is present.
Rishi.
Shoham Rishi. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Shoham Rishi. Yes, you are present. Prolay Jana. Prolay Jana.
Present, sir.
Prolay Jana. Prolay Jana. You just know the previous roll number, so just put on you on mute. Rahul Sheikh.
Yes, sir. Rahul sir.
So you can call the roll numbers also. That is, we know the roll number.
Rahul sir present.
Oh,
Sir, it will be much more
1183.
easier for you, convenient also. Sir, we are having another class from 11 also, so it will be faster.
Let me ask 1183. Priti Das.
Present, sir.
No. Okay.
Present,
Then
sir.
1184. Indrajit Mohan. Noted. 1184. Okay.
Sir, Indrajit Mandal.
Then